leadership team and emotional intelligence expert, and welcome to another episode from the Employee Retention Series. This is the last episode in this series, so make sure that you go back and watch the remaining episodes. And what we've been talking about are strategies and tools and ways that you can ensure that you're customizing your engagement, your team member engagement, so you can not only recruit effective talent, but also retain them. You don't want to have a great team of individuals, and because there were certain pieces missed that could have been remedied, they would have stayed. And now you have to start from scratch and hope that you can build another effective team. So this is going to provide you, and this entire series has been providing you with tools that you can implement, simple tools, effective tools that can really transform how you retain those team members. Because what you don't want is to have recruited an amazing team, but now they won't stay because there were some simple things that could have been incorporated within how you engage, how you connect, so they will stay. So today we want to pivot. Now that we're on the last episode, I want to talk about now what can you start doing to implement to get the feedback necessary for you to ensure that you target the specific areas that need to really be honed in on in order for you to continue to build upon your effective team and keep them in the seat. Have that company loyalty there. Why? Because you have incorporated things that they really connect with that makes them want to stay. So it's a strategy that I have a lot of my leaders do, and it's called host your own roast. If you ever seen those shows where people get roasted through Comedy Central, what happens is that there's some celebrity or somebody that shows up and pretty much all their friends, comedians show up and they pretty much roast them. They throw all kinds of punchlines and jokes at them. But I want you to look at it in another way, because the intent of it is not for people to just joke at you or make fun of you during that entire time, but it is a feedback process that I think will be really effective in how you connect with your team and find out specifically, get that specificity to identify what the actual issue is. So let's define what feedback is. Feedback is information about reactions of a person, product, or service. So it's just like if you put out a product or a service and people ask for their opinion. Hey, how did that taste? What was that experience like? Give us feedback. Let us know how we can remedy the issue. The same thing we do externally for our clients on the outside, we should be doing for our customers on the inside. And our customers as leaders are our team members, are the organization. We want to consistently find ways where we can improve and become better and how we do leadership and how we support these individuals. So let's create a process that, again, I call a host your own roast, where you can start collecting feedback to identify those reactions, again, to the person, which means yourself. And maybe it's someone else. Maybe there are other aspects of what you do in the organization that you need to know so they can have a better experience. Who knows? Maybe they lack enough resources for them to be effective in their role. Maybe there's something in regards to the customer interaction that is missing. Maybe somebody has an innovative idea that you have not even asked about that could alleviate a lot of the stressors that's happening within your organization. And by simply asking for feedback, asking people, again, that's that inclusive side. Hey, how have you been feeling? What do you feel about this? What do you think we can do better internally? Again, that not only remedies issues internally, now those adjustments and those remedies can now spill in or spill out to external things such as client interactions, and it's helping create improvements that now affects everybody on a positive side. So one thing could lead to another good thing and another good thing. And that's the goal of this, is to create remedies to really have that full 180 effect in the positive side. So when I talk about host your own roast, there are a multitude of ways that you can do that. So the first way we want to think about when you want to host your own roast and collect that feedback is by one of the ways that I think a lot of leaders stay away from because it's uncomfortable, but first do it in person. Now, you might be cringing just to think of the idea of sitting in the room and hearing feedback. And depending on your behavior style, depending on how, you might respond emotionally from it, it might be kind of tough to sit there and hear feedback. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be all negative. It might be all good feedback. But again, giving your team members a platform for them to voice their opinions and feel like their voice is being heard, and utilizing the in-person process might really be beneficial by showing that you have a democratic environment, an environment that's inclusive and that truly cares about the opinions of their team members. Now, there are two ways that you can approach the in-person process. Is by first doing a one-on-one session. And in the one-on-one session, that could be having that individual conversation with each one of your team members to really identify what their specific issues are. Because you have some team members who don't feel comfortable in a group environment to share how they feel. But make sure that you take care and you focus on those 4 core areas, asking them how they see your leadership, how they see the company, the organization, the resources, and also the team, because each one of those components could be affecting how they feel, and it might really be something within those areas that could be affecting how they see that organization. So you want to know how they feel about those specific 4 core areas. And again, that's allowing you to engage with them one-on-one and build that individual trust with them. And then you can transition into the group session. And in the group session, that's when you can bring the whole team together, because maybe you identify a pattern in the feedback. Maybe you start to see that, okay, maybe this will be a great way to also bring the team together to come up with solutions to present to the higher ups. Or maybe, again, you might be the CEO of the organization, and this is building not only individual trust, but now it's transitioned into team trust. We're collaborating with one another. We're coming up with solutions with each other. And now that is actually bringing the team together. So yes, it's great to utilize one-on-one, but how about utilizing both ways? And now you're collaborating as a team to come up with solutions. And now as you're doing that, that is one, building individual trust with you as the leader, and also building trust within the team. Now, the second way that you can incorporate a way to collect that feedback, host that roast, is through surveys. Surveys is a great way for you to collect the same kind of feedback with, again, how you are as a leader, how the team is working together, and how that is flowing, identifying if there are any resources related issues or company-wide, organizational-wide issues. And just think about it. Have you ever called in a customer service somewhere and then afterwards they ask you to stay on the line to do a brief survey, or they call you on another number and they ask, how was your experience? But they're collecting feedback because, again, they want to know specifically how our customer service is. They want to identify if you had an issue with that customer service rep so they can really remedy that issue. We need to do that internally. And the great thing about implementing surveys, you can actually also bring it along with the in-person process, because now that you've talked to each individual one-on-one, you've had your group session, now you can utilize surveys to hit those touch points to identify, hey, do you have any more feedback? And then maybe 30 days later, after you've implemented a process, now you're asking, how are things going? Is there any change? So now you're utilizing both of these feedback methods as a way to really show that you are truly about making change, and you're listening to your team members, and also it allows you to continue to collect that feedback and build that trust. And you don't want to solely rely on surveys, because we also want to have those touch points with our team members. But again, by utilizing and collaborating those two processes, now you have a good feedback process going on, and you can consistently ensure that the trust is being built, and you also have a pulse about what's going on within that organization. Now, the last area I specialize in is what I call the organizational health check. And that is another type of survey. And within that, you're collecting that overall picture of how the entire company sees specific areas. And we can customize it where you're focusing on, maybe one area is leadership. Another area might be focused on DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Another area could be focused on development. Another area could be something related to work-life balance. So you customize it how you want, and now you're getting a company-wide perspective of what areas are working and what areas are not. So when it's time to truly invest dollars and identify how you want to remedy these issues, you know how it looks big picture. And also, it can be dialed down to departments. So now you're identifying, okay, maybe this department has a leadership issue while this department has maybe a work-life balance issue. This department might have a DE&I issue. And now it could be something you can hand off to those individual managers and leaders in those departments to address and remedy those issues. But again, this allows you to see that big picture issue to really hone in to what the problem is. And again, as I mentioned, this too can be something you incorporate with each one of these components, the in-person process as well as the surveys. So say you implement the organizational health check first and identify what the big picture issues are. Now that you've identified that, the next step is now you want to go in person. And with the in-person process, you're identifying and having those one-on-one conversations and finding out specifically from the team members, okay, how do you feel about this? And you're getting that one-on-one feedback, or even tagging those other leaders that you might have in your organization or managers to have those conversations. And then that could lead to a group conversation. Well, based off of the organizational health check, the one-on-one sessions we had, we've identified that these are the 10 areas that we want to really focus in on and have that collective conversation within the organization. And then you can go back and utilize the surveys as the last step in the process to continue to check the pulse. Ask if there's additional feedback. Allow the team members to see that things are moving forward. And as you're implementing new processes, it's asking, how is it going? How are things flowing? Do you have anything else you want to identify or address? Are you still having issues? And now maybe it's going back to the drawing board, but maybe now it's just focusing on the one-on-one, the group sessions, and maybe it might be a leadership issue. So all of these could end up being your host to roast process, and you can have this as an initial maintenance aspect. And now you are constantly getting that feedback from your team members to find out what is working and what is not. And now again, we want to make sure that as leaders, as CEOs, as those in the executive tiers, that yes, we are collecting the data, we have the information, but it's also being applied. There are things that are being changed. So we want to make sure we are connecting the feedback plus the action. And by incorporating those two, what will happen is those retention issues will start to decrease. Because now, again, you're building trust. People are seeing that you're truly about what you're saying. You're taking action to make change. So if you have the data piece, but not the action piece, your team members will see that, and you will be back to square one. And we want to make sure we get to the root cause. And that's why this process is so important, because sometimes organizations might implement things that they think is the remedy, but it's not. It's not getting to the core issue. And because the root cause isn't being remedied, the root is going deeper and deeper. Just think about a tree and the roots and how underneath, we don't see how deep the roots go, but they go pretty deep. And if you don't weed it out, it continues to grow. And now you're still seeing that you're having a turnover issue. And that's why this microscopic lens type of feedback process is going to be so beneficial in identifying what those issues are. So when you invest your dollars, when you bring people in, you know for sure, based off of what the organization has found out, the company, the teams, the departments, the leaders, you know that you're investing dollars in areas that are truly the issue, the root cause. And by us doing that, you're going to see that retention issue to decrease. And remember, individuals don't typically quit the organization, they typically quit the leader. And yes, they quit the organization as well, but as individual leaders, maybe again, you're an emerging leader and you haven't gotten to the point where you have a team yet. But when it's time to do that, you can implement these processes. Maybe you have realized that you need to make some changes. You can still implement these processes now. And yes, you might have to build trust, and you might have to start with the in-person process first so you can build trust before people feel comfortable to share the information in surveys. Or maybe it's starting with the organizational health check or the surveys because you could do it anonymously and now people feel comfortable. And as people are seeing change, as they're seeing that you're actually taking action, then having the in-person conversation might be okay because now they feel comfortable. But make sure that you hit all these touch points, because the more you do it, the more you build trust. The more trust that's there, that builds more loyalty. And now the retention issues won't no longer be an issue, because now individuals want to stay there. And that relieves stress from yourself, within the organization, within other team members who have to pick up the work because there isn't enough staff. So continue to work on ways to innovate. Go back and watch the rest of those videos and share this information with other leaders that might need it. And if you need help with the survey process, and if you want to utilize the organizational health check, reach out. info@aishathomas.org. We can do a customized version of it so you can start here and really get that microscopic lens and identify those specific issues so they can be remedied. So continue to grow as a leader. Go back and watch the rest of the videos, and I will continue to bring you more information that's going to help you take your leadership to the next level.